And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Me and Bryan Broaddus declared an emergency. We decided to tap in and do a little bit. He's taking a sip from his salt and pepper lounge. Bryan, some people think that I coated the salt and pepper lounge glass with some sort of poison that makes you aggressive. Because on Jeff's show this morning, you cussed everybody and Vinny out.
I did. I did. I dropped F bombs on everybody on that show, and I dropped F bombs on the listeners. I dropped Jeff bombs on Jeff, on Jerry, on everybody. I didn't know it was going to be one of those days, Voch. I really didn't know it was going to be one of those days, but here we are. And you know what? Hey, it's kind of one of those days. The city of Dallas is now kind of figuring out that trade away those generational players, whether it's basketball, football, it doesn't matter. Just, but listen to the press conference. Listen to Jerry and Steven's reasons. I'm sure we'll get into that and kind of have some discussions as what we thought.
Bryan, we're draft guys at heart. You know what I mean? That's another
We are.
fantastic glass.
Yeah, it's another fancy glass. Look at that logo. Look at that logo on that guy. How about that logo?
Bryan, at heart, we are draft guys.
We are draft guys. We sure are.
I talked to Footsy King, and he kind of echoed the same sentiments.
Sure.
When you're player personnel guy in one of those rooms, I'm just YouTube character, but when
Yeah.
you're in those rooms, and
Mhm.
it comes down to as a draft guy or as a personnel guy, you could do your job much better when you have premium draft picks like that.
Mhm.
Versus, damn, we sure put a lot of time into the draft, and look, we didn't think that Micah was going to be a Von Miller type character, but we got one. Bryan, how do you
Mhm.
guys balance these conversations when you go, hey, we could trade this player away to get more capital because Jerry Jones is advocating for having ammo and the things that he could do with it, versus we
Yeah.
got a player now that's the best player on our team and he goes to Green Bay and he's the best player on Green Bay's team right now, Bryan. How do you
Yeah.
balance
Yeah.
those two sides of the scale?
Oh, this is one of the reasons why I got let go from the Cowboys, because I would have been standing up in the meeting and really hammering what are we doing here? Well, let's really think about what are we doing here. Or, we could talk about adding and stopping the run and all those things. And, I could say, well, we kept talking about the stop and the run, and we drafted Mozzie Smith and see where that's got us. You know, I mean, I would have brought up uh, I would have brought up the fact that, like, listen, do we have to trade him to Green Bay? Are there other options? Is this really our best deal? I would have tried to bring up a discussion, and I would have got voted down. I would have got voted out, and I think the last thing you want to be in that room is a yes man. I don't think you want to be the guy that's yes Jerry, yes Jerry, yes Jerry, yes Steven. Yeah, I don't think you I don't think you want to be that guy. I think that you want to be a guy that, I just remember Sean Payton, and it wasn't to the magnitude of this, but I remember Sean Payton telling everybody in the room, Drew Henson can't play, the quarterback. Drew, he can't play, and Sean was the only one that stood up, and everybody, it's okay. We got a consensus, and thank you, Sean, for your time, and we're going to move on. But God, I hope that somebody stood up and said, "Listen, we really going to do this?" And I've taken a look at Clark. Nice player, nice player. I think when they're if you listen to Jerry and Steven talk, they're putting a lot of we need to stop the run, need to stop the run, need to stop the run. They are putting a lot on a guy to stop the run, who I think has power, has ability, has strength, older guy, veteran guy. Earlier in the season, really good. Watch the Rams tape, good player, good looking player. Watch the playoff game against Philadelphia, looks a little wore down to me. So they're really. I would have made the point, and I'm not saying that Green Bay, hold them up for 3 first-round picks. I don't, I just wonder how many other teams got in on this, and was Green
I don't
Bay
think
the
it was a lot.
best?
I don't think it was a
That's what I'm
lot,
saying.
Bryan.
I
Yeah.
don't, and I got in a discussion with my guys at 105.3 The Fan, and they're like, well, they didn't really do their due diligence. They didn't, and I'm like, guys, there might have been one or two teams
Yeah.
that got in on this. It wasn't, we're acting like that people are just going to willing to trade 3 first round picks and pay Micah Parsons 45, $47 million.
Sure.
That's not the case. You and I have had this discussion. We talked about, I talked to my guys in Green Bay about this. They were willing to go. Green Bay was the team that was willing to go. They were the team that had the money. They were going to be aggressive. They said, hey, if it happens, we're in, and sure enough, they were in. But to me, this was a lot about, they're making a lot about stopping the run here, and I think they're putting a lot on Clark to be that guy, to be a veteran guy there, and he's capable. He's capable. But man, I'm asking the questions. I am not going to just let this one go in the night. I'm not going to say, yes, Jerry, yes, Jerry, yes, Jerry. I mean, it's I would have had some discussions, and that's probably why I'm about to do launch a podcast network with you, because I would have questioned. I go, do we really, really want to do this? Why can't we not talk to this guy? Why are we having trouble with the agent? There's a lot of things that go into this, and I know I would have stood up and said something, and I would have probably got fired again. But I would have questioned this one a little bit more than maybe what was going on in that room.
I think Jerry's capping Brian Broaddus. I think he's lying to our faces, and he's trying to smooth it over with Cowboy fans so he can continue to get good favor and sell tickets, Brian. First thing that I thought was cap. This ain't just about Kenny Clark. I think this is just about you disagreeing with Micah, and Kenny Clark was a player that Green Bay was willing to give up. I thought the player would be Rashawn Gary or something. Maybe.
I did too. I was talking to the Packer guys, and I'm like, well, they'll try and sell you, Van Ness, but
I wouldn't hear for Van Ness. Yeah.
See, Van Ness is kind of like Mozzie Smith.
Sure,
they're kind of waiting on. Well, they're talking him up, and they're trying to convince themselves that Van Ness can play. Yeah. And they're like, but he hasn't. He hasn't been as productive. You give me a shot at Gary.
Yeah.
Now I've got it. Now I'm thinking a little bit better.
It's a little different because Gary's still a really good pass rusher. Yeah. He's less than Micah, but he's still a good pass rusher, and you get the picks. So now
you get the picks and a player that can play the run. And if you're really interested in playing the run, you get a guy like that. And a defensive tackle, they've swung and missed.
Yeah.
Now we'll see what happens with Winfrey. And I'm not trying to bash Clark. I think Clark, like I said, when it's the season started, Clark's a better player. And in talking to the guys there, they're like, listen, good player, good guy, kind of wore down. Age is starting to show a little bit. And that's what the tape shows.
I would have felt better if the Cowboys would have just sent a pick to get Clark. I would have rather that. So you get Clark and just keep Micah. Yeah. And the first round pick's gonna look real attractive when we in draft season, Brian. But that's not telling me that you're trying to win now, because you've already dug yourself in this hole with this Pickens thing, right? Mm-hmm. And you can say that you're gonna try to sign some guys back, man, but you got to go right back through that agent to go deal with Pickens and a bunch of other guys. But you've dug yourself in this win now hole, Brian. And Micah Parsons is a win now player for you. Now you can't use the angle of I'm gonna use these picks. These picks that we got capital to do things now. Another thing I think is cap. I don't think Jerry's gonna trade the picks to get players. He said in the press conference.
He said, well, we're not done. This might be using,
They're done. Okay. They don't trade. Yeah. They don't trade first round picks to get players like that. So and then they don't have a third. So they're definitely gonna keep that first to mitigate losing the third. I think that's cap. Also, the last thing that I think is cap. He was like, everybody in the organization was unanimous about moving on from Micah. That's bullshit too, Brian.
I would not. That would not have been me. And I know there's things about Micah Parsons but I know one thing. You talk to offensive coordinators around the league. That's a tough guy to deal with right there. That's tough. And listen, this goes all the way back to a couple of years ago with Micah. I mean, Jerry could talk about Micah. There's people in the organization that are celebrating right now. There's people in the organization that are over there ordering the lobster tail and steak at the place you had and having the drinks with the smoke coming out of them. You know what I'm saying? And in the fancy glass. That's what they're doing right now. And because there's guys that really believe that Micah Parsons was some detriment to this football team, that his personality, the way he goes about you can't discount him as a player. You can talk about him anywhere else, but man, you find a way to kind of get along with these guys. And I think Jerry got really mad at Micah. I think he got mad at David Mulugeta. I think he got mad. He just this is why they moved on. It was very, very quick, to like, okay, Green Bay's the best deal. Let's move on. Let's go. So unfortunate, and we'll see. We'll see if they, in fact, now when we get to draft season, you're right. We're going to be talking about, hey, you got your own pick at pick 9, and you got Green Bay's pick at 27.
Pick
You know,
nine. Yeah, yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And hopefully it's not the case. But maybe at pick 9, if all of a sudden your quarterback situation, doesn't go well, if all of a sudden you're losing games, but Dak's healthy and it's not working and all that, you've at least given yourself a chance to, if you want to, in the next 2 years, change your quarterback.
Yeah.
You've given yourself. Now, I'm not saying they'll do that, but at least it's opened the door if, in fact, at one of your most important positions, you have options now to be able to go do that.
Bryan, what? So, do you think that this push to get these extra pass rushes over here, Bryan?
Mhm.
When the initial roster dropped, we ended up with 6 guys. James Houston was the last, and then you add
Yeah.
2 practice squad players with Isaiah Land and Dio from the
Mm.
Ravens or whatever. Do you think that this was, you always talk about the Cowboys covering their ass, or like Will McClay covering
I
his
do.
ass.
Will cover his ass. He will.
Do you think that the writing was on the wall for a little bit, and that those moves to bring in extra pass rushers was a result of maybe guys knowing that Micah was probably on his way out of this thing?
I don't think so. I mean, next time that Stephen Jones is standing there, like, basically met with him like a month ago, and he's saying, I'm not trading Micah Parsons. I believed him at that point.
I did too.
I really did. And I sat there and looked at him, and he says, I have no intention of trading Micah Parsons. I have no intention. I think 4 weeks now, fast forward 4 weeks or 4 weeks later, I think it got to the point where they're like, well, damn it, this ain't going to get any better for us. This ain't getting any better. And maybe the price of poker got too high for them. What the demands were, and the number of years, this, that, and the other. But it was a Stephen Jones went a very, and I'm not going to say it's quick because it's been a month. We stood there at Nobu at that restaurant, and he, in front of a large contingency of media, said, I have no intention of trading Micah Parsons. And so Jerry says, well, do you want me to? I mean, it's one of those things where, you're sort of like, okay, cool. These are like off the record conversations and stuff like that we're having about Micah, but he was adamant about that. Stephen was adamant about that. And at the time, I didn't think Stephen was lying to us. But the next time they tell me that they're not going to do this or not going to do that, no, I ain't, I ain't drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm not going to do that, because and they're saying, well, we thought about it in April. We've had these discussions in April and all that. I don't believe that either. I just don't believe that either.
So
You should have done something different then.
so Bryan, let's just say that Jerry Jones ain't BSing us, and his
Yeah.
ultimate vision really was to bring in Kenny Clark to kind of help the run game situation stuff.
I would have gone for somebody different then.
Yeah.
Then you go for, like you said, go find
Go
somebody,
get
go
go get
trade.
go get Quentin
Yeah.
Williams or some shit. Like go
Yeah.
get
No,
somebody.
yeah. If you want to really help your team, go get somebody.
Yeah.
But don't sit there and act like that Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark is a good player. I am not bashing Kenny Clark. But to listen to them talk, it's like they traded for Quentin Williams.
Yeah.
It's like they traded for,
And he's
you
not
know,
that. Clark ain't that.
yeah, it's like they traded for this elite run defender. He's a good player.
Mhm.
He's a good player, and he's better. He's going to be better than
Solomon
what
probably.
you got.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a stronger, powerful guy.
A little bigger than
He's,
Solomon too. Yeah.
yeah. He's a bigger, solid, stronger guy.
Yeah.
He can hold up on the double teams. He could, but man, if that was the kick in, if that was like, if that's who they asked for, I don't know.
It's a little
I don't
weird.
know about that. Yeah, I don't know about that one.
See, the fact that it's tied to Micah makes it weird because now the value doesn't even make sense anymore
Yeah.
because Micah's like way up here. Like Kenny Clark,
Yeah.
like like you said, Brian, Clark is a cool player, and I can
He
see him making an impact immediately.
Yeah.
But Michael wasn't that much of a he wasn't that much of a detriment in the run game though, Brian. You would say, right?
No, I would, I think that there's some things that they've done to him in the RPO game and the stuff where they pull and they make him have to commit and stuff. Micah is not Sean Lee. Micah is not Leighton Vander Esch.
Sure.
Micah is not Dat Wynn. Micah is not Dexter Coakley. Micah is not that guy. He's not going to sit there and grind on tape all day and figure that out. Micah Parsons has a God-given talent to rush the passer. And we figured that out because Tank Lawrence hurt his foot in a practice. And Dan Quinn said, okay, well, let's see what we got here. That's how we figured out that Micah Parsons was a damn elite pass rusher. That's how we figured it out. It took an injury for us to figure this out. Yeah. So to me, he's not going to prep like those linebackers I mentioned. I mean, I think there's guys too, like that they have now, like a Sanborn, guys like that. They're really going to study, really going to be react. That's the kind of. But Mike is not going to do that. He plays on feel and athletic ability, and really outstanding athletic ability. And when they get him in situations where he has to make a decision, they can make him look a little foolish there because he's not always going to prep that thing. He's not going to always say, "Oh, like Sean Lee, this formation tells me they're going to do this." Leighton Vander Esch, oh, this formation tells me they're going to do that. That win, man. When I get in that trip for, I know what they're going to do. He's not that guy. Yeah. So that's why sometimes in these situations, he's going to look a little foolish when they run the ball at him.
The Cowboys still have good pass rushers, Brian.
They do,
but everybody's job just got a little harder, right? Because it
got not a little harder. It got a lot harder.
The allure of Dante Fowler was he gets to be the second guy. Donovan gets to be the third guy type stuff, right?
Yeah, they've now it turns into they've got to get 3 or 4 guys that have 5 sacks. They've got to maybe have one guy that gets close to double digits, and maybe everybody else, like you were talking about a few years ago, that they were able to. Dorrance Armstrong, and they were kind of put together. Yeah. Everybody that lines up for them, Donovan Ezeraku is going to have to come up with 5 or 6 sacks. Everybody who lines up, Nealon, everybody that plays is going to have to contribute because now they're going to have to make up for the sacks they're not going to get. And not only the sacks, they're going to have to make up for the pressures.
Yeah, for sure.
They're going to have to make up for the pressures that Micah Parsons was getting you on a daily basis. So, did you get better stopping the run?
Yeah.
Maybe. Did you get worse rushing the passer? Maybe.
So look, Brian, on that point, let's just say Jerry ain't BSing. I think he's BSing, but let's just say he's not. Yeah. Do you think losing a little bit in the pass rush department, and I know the answer is no, but do you think losing that much in the pass rush department to gain in the run defense section of it, do you think that balance will make you a better defense? The answer is no, but I just want to hear what you say.
Yeah, the answer to that, no. And to me, like, if all along I believe this, and you and I were at practice every time we got to watch practice out there, and we kind of get a little bit of a rhythm of how they're going to play defense. It's once again going to be, and Stephen Jones was quick to say, well, Matt Eberflus can scheme pass rush.
Eberflus don't want to go into no damn game playing without Micah Parsons, man. That's crazy. No. Eberflus don't want. I feel bad for Shotty and Flus because they up here. Because look, if anything, Shotty is in this thing with no resume for real. Nothing to really back him up, and he really doesn't have this trait that pushes him over the edge. Besides, like motivation, motivating players. So he needs the best guys he could possibly get. Man, he got to go against the Super Bowl damn champions without his best player, man. That's really putting them guys behind the 8 ball. Flus didn't advocate for this. Shotty didn't advocate for this. And maybe that's why when you're looking for new coaches, Brian, you need somebody that's just going to shut the hell up. That's the first thing Jerry Jones said. Hey, man, Shotty had to bite his lip a couple times. Shotty had to acquiesce to what the hell was going on. He had to shut the hell up, and that's what he had to do. Man, who's going to go for that? Ain't no unanimous trade Micah Parsons. We a better team without him? That sounds crazy.
Madness. Yeah, I don't. I'm sure there's some guys that drove home tonight and were probably thinking, wow, I just sit there and watch this get a little bit weaker on defense, and all of a sudden because they're making way too much about the run defense. They haven't helped the run defense that way. I mean, Kenny Clark, I keep saying this, good player. But if you're sitting there and thinking that Kenny Clark, I'm happy with, yeah, you can be happy with the picks because maybe the picks will get you, like I say, maybe it'll help you with a quarterback. Maybe it'll help you with a corner. Maybe it'll help you with something. But man, this team was starting to get some good news. With Diggs coming back, it was starting to be able to, like, all of a sudden, like we were thinking Diggs mid October. We weren't thinking Diggs in September. We were thinking Diggs in mid October. So you were going to be able to play some coverage, and now you get your pass rush. Well, you've really kind of limited your pass rush, and they're worried if your offense is any good, they're not going to run the damn ball on you.
Yeah.
They're not going to run if your offense is scoring points and it's kind of a fallacy what they're thinking about right now.
Yeah.
If their offense is as good as they think it's going to be, teams aren't going to run the ball on them. You just gave up you gave up the one guy that terrifies offensive tackles and terrifies offensive coordinators. That's what you did. You gave that guy up. And I listen. If if in fact your offense is that good and you're putting up points, and then now you've limited your pass rush, well, what have you done? What have you done here? So I don't I don't I don't I'm not particularly a fan of what I'm a fan of the like what you have to do to get picks. I'm not a fan of them not getting the player done. But at $47 million, they probably weren't comfortable doing that. You know, they probably weren't comfortable. But if this offense, like I say, if this offense is as good as they think it is, they better have some pass rushers because people are gonna throw the ball. That's what they have to do to get back in a game. And if you can't rush the passer, well then we'll see how the secondary holds up. But I thought they got some good news on Diggs, and I was kind of hopeful that Micah would get done, and then this defense would be better. Right now, I don't think they're better.
I got
I
one
would
more
I
for.
would have. I'll tell you what. Another thing I would have stood up for. Why are we cutting Flanoy?
How the
You know
hell
what?
Flo gets shot, Bryan?
I don't know, man. I don't know that one. That was they added an offensive
A fifth
lineman.
round offensive guard, and you got
Yeah,
plenty guards on his team already. I don't know what the hell that's about, Bryan.
and I don't know either. But then you're it. Do we have 12 defensive linemen now, including Mozzie?
I was just
Is
about. I'll
that
say okay. So hold on. So
it's 12, right?
Bryan, my next question was Jerry Jones just
Yeah,
lied to us about this Mozzie shit a couple days ago.
yeah, he absolutely did. He absolutely did.
and
Yeah,
he just put your head coach in a compromising position with
damn
this
right he did.
Mozzie situation. Now you
Damn
add
right he
a
did.
whole nother defensive tackle to the party, Bryan, bro.
We got
What the
12
heck?
defensive linemen.
You got six damn edges, six defensive tackles, and Flo got shot. Bryan, what do we do at defensive tackle now? You keep all of them?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. That's it's some of the weirdest team building I've seen. I mean,
It's been a
well,
weird
about
couple of hours,
roster,
Bryan.
roster. I like I say, you're adding offensive linemen. Okay, we'll see. But and adding Kenny Clark, okay, part of the deal. But you keep, there's not a defensive. I mean, seriously, I could have moved on. If you've got Kenny Clark, you can move on from Mozzie. You just move on. Just move on. You know, you don't need to keep Mozzie around so Mozzie could be inactive every week. Why? You know, that's. I don't have a good answer for that one, my friend. I really don't. But I wouldn't have. I would have stood up and said the whole thing with Flanoy. I would have said, "Wait a minute. Do we have somebody else that we could move on from? And there's somebody else that we can move on. I mean, Ryan Flanoy was one of your better players in training camp. He made this team because he started slow, and all of a sudden he got to the Rams game and something came on. And Shotty's up there bragging about him about the best special teams play. What wide receiver is going to play special teams? Tolbert?
Right,
Hell no.
right.
Hell no. Who big body guy is going to go in there and dig people out when they try and run the ball on the edge? Tolbert? No. Eh, I there's some of it's strange. It's really really strange. And like I said, I would have probably been fired tonight because my day would have been wrecked of trying to like why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And I'm sorry. I don't see it. I just don't see it.
You sent me a text earlier. You tried to do a little bit of homework and get some answers on the Zion Childress thing.
He came through waivers. He came through. So I haven't seen if they've added him, but yeah, he cleared. So I hope that they brought him back. I hope.
What's going on, Bryan? How does Flournoy get cut? How does Childress, Keymon Hall? How do all these guys get cut? And you add two corners I never heard of before. You add You add the Eagles' fifth guard. In place of a guy that was going to play real reps for you. You hold on to Mize and you overinflate your tackle room just to bring in Kenny Clark and you trade Micah Park. What the hell you think? You think Jerry just getting old and his mind's leaving him a little bit with some of these decisions?
I think this is more. I think this is more Steven and Will.
More Steven and Will.
Yeah, I do. And listen, I will be the first one to admit if they made all these moves and it works out, and this is a division winning team.
I say I was wrong.
I will come on. I know you and I have got this. I'm here at the studio. We will talk about it, and I will be the first one to look right in camera 4 and say I was wrong about Stephen Jones and Will McClay, and I owe you an apology. I will say it, and I'll look at camera 1 and do it. I'll look at camera 2. I'll look at camera 3, and I'll look at camera 4. I'll do all the cameras and admit that I was absolutely wrong about this if it works out. But I have my doubts right now. I have my doubts.
Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate y'all for tapping in with us on this emergency edition.
Cheers.
Of the Doing All Right. Cheers, sir. Thank you very much, Bryan Broaddus. If you guys would like to purchase a Salt and Pepper Lounge glass, pint, or wine glass, you go on the link in the description, Bryan. Please go to Crown Global Media on YouTube and hit the subscribe button. I've been showing up lately, getting my work in. We're gonna do a little mock draft on Saturday, and we're gonna show up Monday and get some work done, Bryan, and it's gonna be cool. And
it will be cool. It'll be game week, so it'll be exciting. Once again, too, I love doing the work with you. I'm super excited too, and also doing the break on DallasCowboys.com, and then excited to when we get going on the draft show too. But we got a lot of things going on here at Crown Global Media. They're very exciting. So please, just give us a couple more days, and you'll be impressed with what we got rolling.
Tap in, y'all. Good content is on the way. Don't be too upset. Don't break no furniture in your house. And,
nah.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, we gonna cover this thing top to bottom no matter what happens. Absolutely. And we appreciate y'all watching. Okay, y'all hold it down until next time. Crown.